Hello, everyone, and welcome to Full Time, where we take you around the world of soccer, locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally. The Full Time podcast is presented and powered by 91 Network. You're listening to Season 5, Episode 19 of Full Time. I'm your host, Daniel Scarpino, and with me is our co host, Gitano Gallo. Before we begin today's show, we'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. The Full Time Podcast is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. With their two locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, you can download and access the Pizza Portal app so you can enjoy a delicious hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. The Full Time Podcast is also sponsored by Sioux Sports. To check out Sioux Sports and all of their articles, announcements, and streaming platforms, including True House Media and True North Radio, visit SiouxSports.com as well as Sioux Sports TV on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. We remind our listeners that recordings of Full Time occur weekly or bi-weekly, and uploads to all of our platforms for public viewing and listening occur weekly or bi-weekly as well. Folks, we welcome you back to Full Time, and we hope that you are all doing well. G, how goes it, my friend?
I'm not doing too bad tonight. Scarps, how about you?
I'm doing not too shabby, sir, and I'm looking forward to our show today. And in today's show, we will discuss Europe's Big Five and the Champions League. As always, if anyone would like to listen to our previous content, please check us out at Full Time on all platforms of 91 Network. And without further ado, Gaetano, and to everyone who has taken the time to tune in here today, let's kick off. We'll get the show started by getting into Europe's Big Five, and we'll first start by looking at the English Premier League. Liverpool has more than made up their game in hand, accumulating 61 points after 26 games played, Second place, Arsenal has 53 points with a game in hand. In third is Nottingham Forest with 47 points. In fourth is Manchester City with 44 points. G, your thoughts on the title race?
Yeah, it's getting a slight bit closer. Liverpool dropping some points into their last three games. They can no longer be Centurions anymore, so that City record is safe, which is a relief because they look fantastic. But yeah, they've stumbled a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be anything too detrimental to their challenge just quite yet.
Yeah, and again, with that squad staying as healthy as they have been, this was always kind of expected that they have this little stumble, and who knows, it might continue for a little bit, but the squad, is looking as strong as ever, so I don't think that'll be too much of a problem for them, at least in the short term. And in the relegation zone, Southampton, Leicester, and Ipswich Town make up the bottom three. Wolves is just on the outside of the drop zone. No twists and turns as of late, Gitano, but it does appear from a numbers perspective that one win for any of these teams, with the exception of Southampton, of course, it could really turn their fate around completely, at least in the short term.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're talking about, a win for Leicester, Ipswich getting them right out of the relegation zone, a win for Wolverhampton getting them, significantly farther away from the relegation zone. I think it's these next stretch of games is going to be massive for them.
Well, without doubt, in every game, like you always say, it'll seem like a cup final in that relegation zone for sure. And unlike the relegation battle in the Premier League, in Spain's La Liga, there are twists and turns. It's a title race only separated by goal difference at this moment in time. Barcelona and Real Madrid are joint top of the table with 51 points apiece. Atletico Madrid is right behind them, trailing them by 1 point. So that means that they have 50. Athletic Club is fourth with 45 points. Gitano, what a title race that we have here in La Liga. And kudos to Barcelona for pulling themselves back into things, because for the better part of a month, they were practically out of it.
Yeah, this has probably been the most chaotic title race that we've seen so far this season in Europe, between Barca's incredible start, the bubble bursting, Real and Atletico Madrid both kind of battling it out now, and now kind of this three-way, it's like a hair off it being a three-way tie for first. It's incredible. And like you said, kudos to Barcelona. We did expect the bubble to burst and for them to stumble, but they've recovered nicely under Hansi Flick here.
Yeah, without doubt, helium is certainly back in the balloon, and we'll see if at some point it bursts again down the business end of the season here. Out in Italy, Serie A, despite recent slip-ups at the top, it really hasn't changed how the table looks. It's still Napoli in first with 56 points after being winless in their last three games. And it's Inter still in second with 54 points, despite only picking up 2 wins in their last 5 games. Atalanta more than have themselves back in the conversation with 51 points in third place. So, G, a bit of a two-parter here. First, what can you say for Atalanta getting themselves back into the title race officially? And second, are these moments for the top two teams just a bit of a slip up, or do you think it might be a little bit more long term?
Yeah, so with Atalanta, I think it's fantastic for the league to kind of have a three-horse title race here. It's also really good for the team. I know I'm going to sneak this in a little early, but getting eliminated from Europe. Um, Now the kind of all focus is going to be on the league now. And they're within touching distance. 3 points separates them and the two clubs tied in first. So I really think that, if they can kind of put their European disappointment aside and focus on the rest of the domestic season, they've got a shot at really pushing them here.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you know that with Atalanta, goals are there to be had. So, they could certainly make things interesting down this business end of the season upcoming, pushing Napoli and Inter as far as they can be pushed. In the Bundesliga in Germany, Bayern increased their lead at the top to 8 points. They have 55 points after 22 games played. Second place Leverkusen has 47 points. And third is Frankfurt with 42 points. G, is Bayern slowly moving clear here?
Yeah, they're just kind of inching their way clear. Not that they're playing poorly, but Leverkusen, Frankfurt, and RB Leipzig have all been kind of dropping points in these last 5-game stretches here. So it's not that Bayern are getting themselves any more clear. It's just the trailing pack is doing just that. They're just trailing that little bit more. And we're kind of getting to that point of the season, February, March, where it's only going to take a couple more game weeks before it maybe becomes mathematically impossible for certain scenarios. And then, I think we're closing in on a Bayern Munich Bundesliga win, if we're going to be honest.
Yeah, you and me both, my friend. It's literally just one step at a time, one day at a time that they seem to be moving themselves further and further ahead. France's Ligue 1 still remains all about the undefeated PSG. They have 56 points and, of course, no losses to their name. Second place Marseille is 10 points behind them with 46 points. Nice and Monaco are joint third with 40 points each. Gitano, can Marseille keep up any realistic pressure against PSG?
I think they have to. I think this PSG team, if I'm in the Marseille camp, I'm telling myself and my team that this PSG team is super young, super inexperienced. If they crack and they lose that first game in the league, what's their response going to be? I think as long as you kind of keep if they keep themselves close, they could really make a kind of push for it if PSG kind of slips and has their bubble burst here. And you just kind of have to have that mentality. You can't just kind of throw in the towel with half a season left. Go, okay, well, it's all good. They're going to win. No, you got to keep the pressure on, even if PSG don't slip up. If they do, maybe not go undefeated, but kind of don't really have that bubble bursting moment where they drop a bunch of points. Marseille's got to do their best to kind of just keep there, just on the off chance that it does happen, and then when it does happen, if it does happen, be there to capitalize.
No, absolutely, man. I think just keeping it within 10 points, I think, is going to be crucial because usually, and again, we know this as fans of the sport, where one loss comes usually means two, and then that usually means a couple other dropped results, those runs of form, right? So again, if Marseille can just stay within touching distance, I think the pressure, in a logical way, can be put against PSG. Moving along, it is the Champions League that has now come down to its final 16 teams. The first 8 teams, as we covered on our last episode of Full Time, got a bye into the round of 16 due to their records and points total coming out of the league phase of the competition. There were 16 other teams who had to play over 2 legs to see who would qualify for the official round of 16 in this newly formatted Champions League. And here and now, we are going to take you through the results of each tie in this round. First, we will start with Milan and Feyenoord. After Feyenoord took a 1-0 lead in the first leg, it was a 1-1 draw that would spell the end of Milan in this tie and send Feyenoord through to the round of 16. G, your thoughts?
Yeah, the big guns for AC Milan did not turn up. No disrespect to Feyenoord, but only scoring 1 goal over the 2 legs for Milan is going to be really disappointing considering the attacking talent they brought in the transfer window. Specifically Santiago Jimenez and João Felix, keeping hold of Rafael Leao. They have Pulisic. They have enough firepower there, but just if you can only get that 1 goal over 180 minutes, it's going to be tough to win those ties.
Yeah, and it's one of those things we say all the time on Full Time amongst many things, but you don't score, you don't win. And I was actually I was thinking that it would be promising in the second leg and in terms of how Milan kind of started the game, but it didn't materialize in the end. So kudos to Feyenoord. Benfica and Monaco had us on the edge of our seats, particularly in the second leg. After Benfica got themselves a 1-0 win in the first leg, it was a 3-3 affair in the second leg that would see Benfica move on to the round of 16 by an aggregate score of 4-3. Gee, there was no holds barred in the second leg of this affair. Lots of goals to talk about. The floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, this is probably the best tie of this kind of what do they call it? The playoff knockout. Just incredible. Kind of two teams super evenly balanced, like tactically and like kind of skill level wise. I thought it was some of the best football you're going to see in Europe this year. I thought, and Benfica, after 180 minutes, rightfully definitely going through on it.
Definitely, and these ties we see them all the time in Champions League, Europa League. That they kind of just slide underneath the radar, but they're the ones if you watch football enough, you'll understand that they could always bring some about some excitement for sure. Club Bruges proved to be far too much to handle for Atalanta, winning both legs. Club Bruges move on to the round of 16, winning on an aggregate score of 5-2. Gee, what went wrong for Atalanta?
Well, it's funny because we talk about them as being just this high-powered offense team, but again, only 2 goals across 180 minutes. It's just, you can play run and gun football. You can do that, but you have to be scoring more than a goal a game. Am I shocked that they conceded 5 across 2 legs? Not particularly. Their defense isn't what has got them into the position domestically that they are, or even this far into the Champions League. But yeah, for the goals to dry up on them, that's got to be really disappointing.
Oh, without doubt. And I mean, spoiler, if nobody watched our last show, we both picked Atalanta to go through because we figured that they would just outscore their opposition. But we did mention on our last show that at some point you can't just attack; you got to be able to defend as well. So you concede 5 goals over the course of 2 legs in the Champions League. 9 times out of 10, you're going to be bowing out of the competition. That's exactly what we saw here. It was about as close as it would get in the Bayern versus Celtic matchup. After a close 2-1 affair, which went in the favor of Bayern after leg number 1, it was Celtic who drew things level at 2-2 on aggregate in the second leg. That was until Canadian Alphonso Davies popped up for a tap-in the 94th minute, sending Bayern through to the round of 16, winning on an aggregate score of 3-2. Gee, it's absolute heartbreak for Celtic, who I gotta say played amazing in this tie. I thought that this one wasn't going to be close, and I put my hand up to that. I actually said 9-2 on aggregate, but I take my hat off to Celtic early for their effort in this tie. I thought they were sensational, but Bayern find a way. What can you say for it?
Yeah, I'm gutted for Celtic. So many chances they missed though, and like on these big European stages against a team like Bayern Munich, you have to take chances, and they didn't. And of Fonzie making them pay in the 94th minute off the American defender's mistake. I feel bad for Kasper Schmeichel because he played a hell of a game for a hell of a tie, honestly, for Celtic, keeping them in it. Some huge saves, and then for that rebound to just kind of be the one that knocks them out in the last minutes there is heartbreaking. But again, this is Bayern Munich. They find a way to win. If you don't capitalize on those chances, like we were saying, like you're not going to go through, and especially against a team like Bayern Munich.
Yeah, and again, the chances, especially when you're playing against a team like Bayern Munich, the chances could very well be few and far between. If you don't take them, you're in a whole heap of trouble. And still, Celtic didn't take all of their chances, but they were still right there at the end. Like it could have went their way. So definitely gutted for them. But what a fight and how resilient they were in this tie. So again, kudos to them. A snooze fest in the second leg was to the delight of Dortmund fans as they were able to be triumphant in their first leg of their tie versus Sporting. Over 2 legs, Dortmund didn't concede a single goal, and they move on to the round of 16 by a score of 3-0. Gee, Dortmund were solid, they were resolute, and Sporting, by all accounts, really weren't anywhere to be found. But what did you make of it?
Yeah, kind of shocked from Sporting's performance. Not that Ruben Amorim, made them play a certain way in terms of like, he's only been gone for so long. Like it's not like everything that he's, what taught at that club is just like gone. He's been gone, what, like 3 months?
Yeah, maybe. Oh, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's kind of shocked to see how just flat they were. Victor Gyökeres did nothing. I don't even know if I couldn't even tell you if he played across 180 minutes there. Like, one of the hottest strikers in Europe, and it feels like he just did nothing that entire tie. And I mean, lucky for Dortmund because not that they played bad, but if Sporting had showed up, even 10-15% more, could have been a lot closer. But Dortmund's definitely going to enjoy the double clean sheet in this tie, not conceding any, kind of hoping to build off of that, facing either is it Lille or Aston Villa, I think they have. So it's definitely a winnable tie for them going forward. But yeah, it was nothing fantastic. Got the job done.
Yeah, exactly. And again, there's usually, one tie that you pick out as a fan. You think to yourself, oh, that one kind of let me down. For me, it was that one. And I was actually hoping for more from Sporting. We both were, quite frankly. But in the end, kudos to Dortmund because, again, to keep 2 clean sheets over 2 legs is really admirable for sure. Real Madrid and Manchester City had all the goals to talk about in their tie. After a close 3-2 first leg, ending in a Jude Bellingham match winner for Real Madrid, it was a 3-1 win in the second leg for Real Madrid, all goals coming from Kylian Mbappe. Real Madrid move on to the round of 16 on an aggregate score of 6-3. Gitano, your thoughts and analysis on this one?
I feel like this tie is just kind of like a microcosm of City's whole season. Haaland scores the penalty in the first leg to make it 2-1 with about 10-12 minutes left. And then they just collapse. We give up the 2 goals. A couple players get hurt. We go into the second leg, down 2-1 now, or sorry, 3-2 after the first leg. John Stones doesn't make it through 5 minutes of the game. Erling Haaland's not fit enough to even start the game. It's just a microcosm of City's season. I don't think we were at our best. I don't think Real Madrid were particularly at their best. It sucks, but honestly, this is it feels a little more like old Yeller, take the dog out of his misery. I didn't really want to see us have to, go through this anymore. We're the squad's just destroyed in terms of injuries again. We've not been playing well. I think at this point now it's just focus on, FA Cup, get top 4 in the Prem. That's kind of where we're at. It's not a great spot to be, but I'm not going to complain because I understand the privilege that I've had in the last decade. So it sucks, but it is what it is.
Right. And you know what? For me, it wasn't that Real Madrid were super duper brilliant or anything like that. It was moments of magic mixed with just know-how in terms of players who have been there, done that, a manager who's been there, done that. And they ran up against a Manchester City side, to your point, and you can say it better than anybody, who's just not at their best this season. It's just a fact. So, again, the fact that Real Madrid wins doesn't surprise me. Did they look their best? No. But, again, City was a shadow of themselves, we'll call it. But, again, Real Madrid moving forward in the Champions League is something that we could have all possibly expected just because of their pedigree in this competition. About as dominant as you could ever imagine, PSG concede nothing but scored 10 over 2 legs against Brest, winning by an aggregate score of 10-0. Gitano, PSG playing no games and not messing around whatsoever, so it appears. Are they showing themselves to be for real in this competition as they move on to the round of 16?
I mean, I don't want to fully say yes because it was just Brest, who, no offense to them, are not massive European giants or anything even really close. So I think this is kind of a great little confidence booster for PSG. Maybe a nice little pat on the back. Hey, we got this kind of out of the way. But at the same time, this is not going to be the story of their European season. This 10-0 aggregate victory. If they go and get dummied in the round of 16, all of this will be for nothing. So I think if PSG are smart, they're kind of using this as not as a lesson, but motivation. Okay, we got that one done, great, but now we're on to the next one.
Yeah, and nothing will be easy moving forward in this competition, regardless of who they draw. The draw at the time of recording, today's Thursday. The draw will happen tomorrow, but whoever they match up against is not going to be easy. So we'll have to put this one behind them relatively quickly. And finally, PSV and Juventus went back and forth in their qualification tie. In the end, it was a resilient comeback effort by PSV, who get themselves over the line against a difficult Juventus side by a score of 4-3 on aggregate. G, your breakdown of this one.
Yeah, I thought this was fantastic from PSV. Going into the first leg, losing 2-1, coming back with a big 3-1 win. I think it's. I don't want to disrespect PSV here, but I think this is says a lot more about how poorly Juve have been doing recently, domestically and in Europe now. Going into that game with a 2-1 lead, losing 3-1, it's just really, really un-Juve like, if I could kind of say it that way. But yeah, just it's almost like the way that they got dominated. And I know it was an away game, so they weren't at home for it, but like just played off the park, dominated in Europe is not something that you ever really associate with Juventus. Even though they've been kind of poor in the last few years, like it's still like the way that PSV manhandled them in the second leg was super, super impressive. And not that I think they're going to win the tournament or anything, but definitely kind of a big statement from them. And again, it might not be this season, might be, next year, the year after, if they're going to kind of build on performances like this in Europe, that they could be looking to, push for quarters and semifinals a lot more regularly. And for Juve, I think this is kind of a pretty low moment for them. And we'll probably be looking at kind of blowing up the squad in the summer and kind of starting a bit of a rebuild.
Yeah, I'm not sure that the club has much of a choice. The fans are about ready to snap if they haven't already. So discontent that club's at an all-time high. But yeah, this type of result certainly can cause for some change. And I think all Juventus fans, quite frankly, would want that. But again, well done to PSV for getting themselves through. It wasn't easy, but they did well. So to review our picks, Gitano, we both go 4 for 8, 50% on our picks in this round of the Champions League. How tough for you was it to analyze and pick this round, my friend? Because for me, I found it to be incredibly difficult.
Yeah, outside of there was a couple, I don't want to say gimmies, but like I'm always going to pick City no matter who we play. PSG versus Brest was kind of a gimme. But like the rest of these, maybe Celtic Bayern wasn't as much of a gimme, but I think I took Celtic too. Did I not?
No, you took Bayern.
Okay. I was like, the part of me is like, I might have taken Celtic there. But like the rest of these were pretty 50-50. Like, we both made fantastic cases for either team to go through and go out. So yeah, this has been like, and again, we've said this every year that we've done this, but like it just keeps getting harder and harder to do these predictions because the teams, like the quality across the whole of Europe is just getting better and better.
Well, and that's exactly, and we've never had this round of the competition in the Champions League ever, which kind of, made it a little bit of a toss-up, if you will. But now we're back into the sort of true essence of the competition, that being the round of 16. As we said, the draw will go tomorrow for, for basically to see who plays against who. And the round of 16 in the Champions League is really not that far away. The first leg of games will kick off on March 4th and 5th, and the second leg of games will commence on March 11th and 12th. And in our next episode of Full Time, we'll be able to preview the round of 16 for all of our listeners. This is Daniel Scarpino and Gitano Gallo, and you are listening to the Full Time Podcast on 91 Network. A reminder that Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza and Sioux Sports. Check out the Pizza Portal app for a quicker, easier way to get your next hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars. And be sure to check out Sioux Sports at siouxsports.com and Sioux Sports TV on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Full Time. As we bring today's show to a close, we want to thank all of you, our listeners, for spending some time to talk with us about the beautiful game. G, as always, a pleasure, my friend.
Always a pleasure to join you on the show, Scarps. Good luck in the rest of the Champions League with Arsenal, because not that I'm not cheering for Arsenal. I'm cheering for you, Scarps. I'm going to make that clear on the show. But yeah, just always a pleasure, Scarps.
Always. It was great to see you last night and be with you at futsal, and good to be with you here tonight on our podcast. And in our next show, we'll get to talk about Arsenal amongst so many other things. So a good reminder for our listeners that the next episode of Full Time will be recorded the week of February 24th, 2025. In that show, we will take a look at Europe's Big Five, the FA Cup, and the Champions League. As always, we will keep everyone in the loop with all of the happenings in the world of football. For weekly content, make sure to hit like, follow, and subscribe to all platforms of 91 Network on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, Podbean, and spaces at suetoday.com. For Gitano Gallo, my name is Daniel Scarpino, and thank you for tuning in to Full Time. We look forward to seeing you at kickoff next time back here on the Full Time Podcast and 91 Network. Best always.